Welcome to the Monday Money Tip Podcast. My name is Megan Hibbard, and I am one of your co-hosts. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Joe Sengel.
Get fired up.
Happy Monday. Hope you're having a great day. Today is episode number 334, and we are talking about what?
We're going to talk about emergency funds.
Exciting times. Is your emergency fund big enough? Here's how to find out.
Yeah. So it is something it's important to evaluate from time to time because your income may grow, your expenses could grow. You know, let's have kids, they said, it'd be fun. And then you find out that it's not always fun. And you find yourself changing diapers at 2 a.m. and you're sleep deprived and you find out they're expensive. And you're like, what happened to my life? I used to be cool. And now I find myself wanting to buy a minivan. You know, it's really unique. Anyhow, the emergency fund sometimes necessarily needs to grow. And sometimes we don't pay attention to it and it has gotten stagnant. And what used to be sufficient is no longer sufficient. Or dare I say, something like inflation happens. Has inflation happened to you?
Oh, it's terrible.
I think prices just went up.
They went up again.
Again? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, is your emergency fund big enough? We're going to help you find out. Number one, calculate your emergency budget. So what's an emergency budget?
An emergency budget is a budget that you need in an emergency.
Oh. Well, here's how you calculate it. You remove all of those unnecessary things, like the expenses you would not be spending money on if you're facing a crisis. You would not be saving. You would not be investing. You know, it doesn't make sense to continue those financial activities in the face of a big emergency. Yeah. So you're thinking you're not in an emergency right now. You're making sure that you're prepared for one. And this is a time to batten down the hatches.
Yes.
And so you said this in a podcast recently, it's really good at rhymes, that in the middle of this emergency, you want to be positioned to survive so you can
thrive.
That's right. And other key words here, there's other key words that we can talk about this budget, like the word budget follows it. Yeah. So what's the budget?
Bare bones.
Yeah. So an emergency budget is also known as a bare bones budget.
Minimums.
A minimums budget.
For now. Not forever.
Yeah, for now, not forever budget. And that will yield your emergency budget. You need to calculate that. So I want you to think through that in your life. Yes, if you have a mortgage payment, that's still in the emergency budget.
Yes.
But is Netflix in it? Netflix is not in it.
Yeah, no.
Is gasoline for the car in it? Yes, but it may be reduced. You're going to consolidate trips. Is food in it? Yes, but you may shop in different places. You're going to shop in your pantry and freezer and things like that. So you're calculating an emergency budget. And then you need to do a little math exercise.
Yes. No, don't tune out because he said the word math.
Yeah.
Stay with us. So you need to calculate, and what we're going to do is calculating your covered months.
Yeah. How many months can your emergency budget be covered by your emergency fund?
Yes.
So we're calling that covered months.
So you're going to divide your total emergency fund balance by your emergency budget. So if I lost you in that, here's an example that will make it easy. So maybe your emergency fund is $12,000 and your emergency budget is $3,500 a month. So your covered months would be 3.42 months.
Yeah.
3 months, 3.42 months.
Almost 3.5 months worth.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, somebody might ask, why didn't you do a round number and say the emergency budget's $3,000 so that you have exactly 4 months? Well, I like doing real world stuff, and things don't always round to exact numbers.
Always easy.
So there's 3.42 months, and then you once you do this math of how many months can you cover of your emergency budget, those covered months, you've got to ask yourself questions. And the first question is, does this feel like enough? So you're driving the car, you're working out, whatever you're doing, listening to the podcast on a day that ends in day, maybe it's Monday or Saturday, but I want you to ask yourself the question when you calculate, do the math real quick. What does your emergency budget look like? Okay, divide that into your emergency fund. And let me just tell you, if it comes up to zero, that's not enough. You're going to say, that does not feel like enough.
It's not enough.
If it's 12 months, is it enough? Is it 3.42 months, like in our example? You're going to immediately know, your feelings are going to tell you, is it enough? Okay? And then you ask another question. What's the next important question?
Yep. So the next one is, how could I offset my expenses during this emergency so that my funds could stretch farther.
Oh, yeah.
We recently did an episode on how to make your emergency fund last longer.
Yeah.
So maybe we could link that and you go back and listen to it. But
That'd be really good.
how can you stretch your funds farther?
Right. And so these offsetting of expenses, the most common ways are you go shopping in the freezer, you go shopping in the pantry, you shop differently. Instead of brand names, you're buying generic. So it starts with the food items, and then transportation. You're talking about, hey, how do we consolidate trips? How do we make sure that we're not wearing out the car and wearing out our wallet putting gas in it? Those type of things are really important. Maybe it's such a thing as saying, I'm going to lower the temperature in my house to heat it only to 68 degrees instead of 74 degrees.
74.
Yeah, some people heat theirs to 74. It feels like a fiery furnace. I look around and I see a fourth character like as the Son of God. For real. Have you ever done that? You walk into grandma's house? My goodness, I walk in my mother-in-law's house and it is the fiery furnace. It's like, look, there's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And there's a fourth, like he's in the Son of God. Turn the heat down. You could save so much money.
I don't know how they function when it's that hot in there.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. Comment on whether or not you have a family member who turns the heat up too much in the winter.
And how do you afford that? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I know. So listen, we don't want you to get into the emergency and then discover you don't have enough.
Right.
That's a big part of living a fully funded life is preparation, planning. And so we want you to think through this, and really the call to action today is to create your emergency budget and calculate those number of months that your emergency fund will cover. And as you have different specific financial questions, well, what should they consider doing?
Yes.
They could consider joining.
Fully funded life.
Yeah. And what is fully funded life?
Yeah, Fully Funded Life is our online membership community, and it empowers you, who doesn't want to be empowered, with the knowledge, tools, and one-on-one financial coaching you need to take control of your financial future. So you can become debt-free, you can save more money than before, you can survive an unexpected emergency, plus more. So you can check it out at fullyfunded.life to discover how.
Yeah. And so just to wrap this up, I really encourage you to think through what your emergency budget looks like. That's something for you to think about for today, not what it was 2 or 3 years ago. And to really be clear with yourself and your spouse if you're married to say, hey, do we feel comfortable with this? And there's a couple of things you can do. You can cut out expenses, but you can also boost that emergency fund. You can force yourself to build in more savings so that emergency fund, maybe you can trim the budget some, but if you can build up the emergency fund, it can be more covered months. And I would tell you this reason that we have rung number 5 is a minimum of 3 months of expenses is what that is. It says minimum because some people need 6, some people need 7, some people need 12. But everybody knows the number that makes them feel confident. And ultimately, we want for everybody listening to this podcast to experience financial confidence. And that's what a fully funded life is all about.
Yeah. And we're talking about an emergency. Nobody knows when an emergency is going to happen. It's not like you say, next Thursday, something's going to happen. I need to be prepared for it. They happen unexpected majority of the time.
They don't announce themselves.
They don't announce. They don't tell you.
They don't send invitations or make reservations.
Yeah. And so you have to prepare now so that you are prepared when it does happen and you're not blindsided.
So listen, we really encourage you to do that. We will have a link to that other episode on ways to survive and make that emergency fund last longer. I think that'll be a very beneficial episode to you if you're facing the emergency or you're preparing right now. And we thank you for listening to the Money Money Tip podcast. We'll see you next Monday with another helpful financial tip to help you live your fully funded life. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you've gotten value from this, and I believe you have, click that subscribe button, click that thumbs up, leave a comment, share it with somebody. We want to make sure that this community grows so that we can all together live fully funded lives. Thanks for being a part of our family.